with a Facebook status that I wrote that's also kind of like honoring like the gifts that the POC artist and poetry community in New York City gave to me. So yeah, and I feel like Facebook statuses can be poetry too. I just feel like we spend too much time thinking about what makes a poem a good poem, and I think that we're actually writing poetry all the time. So this is a Facebook status I wrote in the beginning of July. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be a political muralist, a poet, a film director, and live because of it. My parents said, "What the fuck?" Art school said, "Pick the one you want to master, because no one can do all three." The real world said, "Pay your rent, and then see what energy you have left over to be an activist and make your films." Falling in love said, "One day, you will lose everything, and everyone that you'll ever love, so you better make the films and write the poems." In New York City, I woke up and I realized that this dream is here because I accepted no other reality. Around me is a national community of color who stops at no odds to pursue the same kinds of resistant practices and build a living doing so. When there are no women of color in street art or film, my friends reclaim that space with me. Together, we carry the weight of immigrant history and articulate the injustices that our injustices cannot. Wear proud your queer and breakable heart and hurl all the remnants into your art. Declare the ways that white supremacy made you silent for 23 years, and that is already 23 years too much. Speak. Yes. As if poetry is the only thing that can affirm your existence, because history knows every wild ton will only be cut out. Love, as if climate change is pulling the life vest from under your feet. Create like that, and then, even when you lose everything, a lover, a family, a country, a history, and a lifetime, you will still have a trembling and unbreakable story. Thank you. So I wanted to start the night with one of the first spoken word poems that I wrote, which is about the Tiananmen Square massacre that happened in 1989, and I wanted to read that kind of in light of a lot of the protests that are going on right now, and how like these protests are like connected throughout history. It is forbidden to tell this story in my native country. America is not my native country. My silence will not protect my native country. The gunshot orchestra washes in through television sets. Waves of nameless bodies find their ways into the eyes of faraway family. A mother falls to her knees at the sight of her children picked clean like debris from the crimson streets. This is her heartbeat. This is my country. This is the soil of a garden where 1 billion people planted their family trees. This is the past of me. I stand here in this ruin of a square with the ghosts of 1,000 bodies, our hearts still flickering, but not yet dead. In 1989, the government painted the Beijing streets red, a soft river of scholarly blood and a deafening crescendo of 10,000 simultaneous tank and gunshot wounds. An instant of fire, and a generation of protesting college students take their final breath. Later that year, my Chinese father takes his first breath in a safe country overseas. He attends the University of Toronto for free or with a scholarship, paid with the currency of international sympathy. Entering the American first grade, one morning recess, another student points a water gun at my chest. Shot dead, the stain will fade away in seconds, but the sound will enter my bloodstream, tunnel down the roots of my family tree, and land on the bloody portrait that the government's army painted on their own city streets. But this painting is a portrait of 100,000 injured, 200 dead, 5,000 dead, no one really knows. A portrait of Chinese ancestry spilled onto the canvas of her mother country. We were 20 years old when it happened. We placed a statue of liberty at the center of our country's heart. For 5 days, she stood up, overlooking a sea of 100,000 men and women united as one. Then a tank's first flame sears the torch from her hands. Her body is reduced to rubble at our feet. But yet we marched onwards, with starving stomachs and hearts aflame. We held each other's hands so tight that even as the students next to us were bayoneted to the ground, we kept marching on until our voices carved a canyon to the other side of the world. And they may try 1,000 times with their loaded guns and rushing tanks to chop the stems off our country's memory, to erase the names of the dead from the pages of history, but they may never beat the love out of us. Let our voices resurface above the steam of our country's body as she struggles to tie every broken piece of herself back together, the same way I am trying to tie the pieces of my past into one. Look at that gun. When it fired, 100,000 protesters' hearts liquefied into an oil to burn a torch as bright as the sun. Look at the sky. We are birds in her palms, lit up forever with an onrush of red. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to these poems. Behind here, there's some like projections of some photography that I found, and also some art that I've done that kind of like goes along with the work. And this is a painting that I did where I imagined like myself praying at Tiananmen Square, and there were like the hands of the earth were holding all the bodies buried beneath the square that nobody ever talks about. And yeah, keep going. Okay, we can stay here. Yeah, okay, cool. So I wrote this poem yesterday, and this is something that I've been thinking a lot about being how the act of being an immigrant and naturalizing yourself to America is never gonna kill the immigrant inside of you, in the same way that once two lovers declare that they're in a relationship, it doesn't necessarily like take away all the problems in the relationship, and these things are we just like declare to feel safe. So I've been thinking a lot about that, and this poem is called The Other. And this was the first time I've ever read it to an audience, so it's new shit. Okay? The other woman crosses the border back into her nation on fire. Her eyelids are burning with the memory of the person she once called her love. She wakes up from this nightmare and calls it the American dream. 2. Lover, there is no border but the one you draw between us. There is no other but the woman that you push outside. There is no love but the fortress you construct around your beating heart. There is no forever but the nation you clutch onto your chest until it dies. 3. You have another lover. Every night, she hammers a house to your chest and calls it citizenship. Inside the fence, your lover thinks that she is alone with you, but late at night, the other woman crosses the border and lies next to you. She is the wind that clatters the floorboards. Like the wind, the other carries no belongings. She has mastered the art of leaving as if she was never there. When she puts her hands around your face, you don't meet her gaze. She kisses you anyways and calls it progress. 4. Your lover is only your lover until one of you leaves. You are the other woman's lover, no matter how many times you leave her side. Unlike your lover, the other woman has no country to return to. When she is alone, she recites the names of all your lovers and calls that allegiance. She writes about you in the third person, so when the day comes and you banish her, it will happen to someone else. 5. Forgive me. I thought I could kill the immigrant inside me by becoming a citizen to your body. that replotting my roots upon your land could make me indivisible. I thought America would finally begin the day I become its a citizen. I thought you would love me when you declared me your lover. 6. The other woman is now your lover. You do not love her. She clings on to you anyways and calls it patriotism. Thank you. The next one. So this is an installation that I made of a community of people crossing the U.S. Mexico border, and along the border there are signs of like those family holding hands as they cross the border. And actually on Monday I'm going to be flying to Arizona, and me and some of my friends were going to be hanging some murals that illuminate migrants who have died crossing the border, and I think it's like a really amazing time to do stuff like this, especially since Donald Trump is going to be in Arizona. So I feel like it's really important to like speak truth in the face of crazy people. So I wanted, how much more time do I have? Yeah, okay, so I wanted to read 2 more poems, and both of these poems combine, they connect the way that the bodies of women and queer people and people of color, and the way that they are colonized is related to the colonization of the earth, and how if we don't do anything about it, it's going to relate. It's going to basically equal like the collapse of the earth. And the first poem is about a personal experience that I had is about a personal experience that I had, and basically like a really bad like sexual experience. And this poem is called The Field. You drove yourself into my earth. I am not ready to receive your premature burial. So I touch myself until I open just wide enough to bury you, a city so afraid of the dark. Power lines electrocute all of my trees into illumination. Blinded, I close my eyes, count down the seconds until you climax, but it never comes. You hold on too tight to your own skin, drill too deep underground. I am not ready to become your gravesite, so I imagine leaving this body behind, my spirit soaring out from the cage of my mouth, and on a distant field, a whip cracks the back of a beast, and all of the starlings in the forest take flight. I open my eyes. Your gaze ruptures the night. Your face, no longer a friend that I know. This city, no longer a home. My body, no longer a girl, but an empty field that you slice into. And I understand now what it must have taken for you to have tamed centuries of wild animals into cattle. Okay, next poem. The slide that has the B on it, so I think it's, yeah, okay. So this is the last poem that I'm going to do, and something that I've been thinking a lot about is how like colony collapse disorder is kind of related to the collapse of civilization, and about how ecofeminism and indigenous feminism can save the world. So yeah. So this poem is called The Last Words of the Honeybees, and it's from the perspective of the honeybees. Honey, my hive is built and ruled by women. We make the honey. I was once wild, honey, but you mistook my wild as for you, and only answer to the name honey. Look at the flowers. I raised them into artichoke, pepper, squash, and apple. Honey, you found my hive and renamed it colony. Honey, you made my body a honey factory. We are the silent workers who bring home the dinner, whether or not our honey comes home. Honey, home was the wildflower field that you cut out to plant a monoculture of white flowers in their place. Look at the garden with all the color forced out. Look at all the yellow, black, and brown bees disappearing into a white field. Honey, we pollinated 30 acres of apple trees to bring home 1 pound of honey, to bring home 1 pound of bodies. Poison in the pollen is poison in my colony, is poison in your children. Honey, tell me, was your breakfast sweet? Honey, when this colony collapses onto its knees in a pool of yellow, black, and brown honey, the women are always the first to go. I close my wings and hit the ground. I open my wings and my colony drops dead. I close my wings and every flower at my funeral begins to grieve. But honey, who will raise the flowers when we are gone? Honey, look up. Do you see the drones? They are next. Honey, and then the queen. Honey, and then you. Honey, every drop is falling into a white field of snow. Honey, I'm home.